Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the CEO of the Broken Yolk Café, John Gelastopoulos. John, how are you today?
I'm good, Frank. How are you?
John, did I get the pronunciation of your name right?
You got it right.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we got that in one try, in one take.
Yeah.
Well, it's very nice to meet you, John. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Broken Yolk Café and how it all got started way back in 1979?
Broken Yolk started in San Diego in 1979. I came in the picture in 1993. It was a business broker selling businesses, and I was looking to find restaurants to sell to my clients. And I came across Broken Yolk, and I kind of liked the hours. I worked before in the restaurants, and I would always work two jobs, working late night. I would never see the sun go down, no time with the kids and then the wife. So when I saw the place closing at 3 o'clock, I figured, you know what, that would be a great business for me. So I approached the owner and I asked him, if he wanted to sell it to me instead of putting it on the market, selling somebody else. Anyways, to make a long story short, he was hot and cold, and I would visit him every, a few weeks. And one day he got in trouble. I don't know, some personal stuff, and I got the phone call. And I had no money, and he said, well, it would take so much money to pay some back bills and some taxes owed. And I go, okay. So I went home and I told my wife, I go, honey, we're going to buy the restaurant. She says, what? I go, yeah. The one that you've been after for a year and a half? I go, yes. And I go, how much money we have in the bank? And she says, well, we have $2,000. I go, we need to cash in all our credit cards.
Oh, my God.
And you know what? Now you're going to ask me, why did you have so many credit cards? I had maybe, 8 or 9 or 10, something. It's because a few years earlier, I would go to seminars and they would just try to teach us how to buy a home with no money down, but you need credit. So I would just accumulate credit cards. So I was a good listener to the person that was giving the seminar. Now all of a sudden these seminars these credit cards come in handy. So I convinced the wife to take all the money out. And the next day, I went with a cashier's check and I put it down. And of course, there was another loan that I had to take over my name, etc. But I made the deal.
No way.
So I walked in. The place was already closed for 2 weeks. And I called in all the employees back, and they came gladly back. And we went to work. Now, the first couple of weeks, business was not that great. The traffic was not there. So I am thinking, what am I going to do? I'm up to my neck with debt. And all of a sudden, I looking at a Rolodex that's sitting on the desk in the back by the storeroom area where I had a little office. And you remember the Rolodex. Actually, right now, it's right behind me. It's not going anywhere. It's right there, And I had all these business cards from people that I met, etc. So I opened the Rolodex. I called the first person. I don't know what his name, Dave, James, whatever. And I go, listen, I bought a restaurant. I'm no longer a business broker. Or take the family and come over the weekend, whenever you have a day off. The weekend come, and then I called, of course, 40, 50 more people. And the weekend comes and the place starts filling up. I had 3 servers on, and they looking at me like they never seen this place so busy. So I would go from table to table. I would take the ticket, put it in my back pocket, and say, thank you for coming, thank you for, and please come again. Again, it would be on the house, it would be on me. And they took advantage of that, which was great. And I created some traffic. That same day that it happened for the first time, my wife was working for Union Bank, and she would come in and do the cash at 3 p.m. So at closing time, I'm helping on the front, and she yells my name, and I go in the office, and I go, what's going on, honey? And she says, there's something wrong with the cash. There is some money missing. There's some tickets missing. Something is wrong. I go, here it is. And I reach out to my back pocket and I take something like 40 or 50 tickets and I go, here you go, these are all comps. She said, what? I go, yes. And we're going to do that tomorrow and the next week and so on. Frank, everybody talks about marketing. Let me tell you about marketing. To me, that was the best marketing I've ever done because we built some traffic and we created a momentum and the momentum never stopped.
Wow.
And that's my story on that.
John, that is a masterclass right there in just good old guerrilla marketing, just doing it right and not having to be so creative and innovative.
Guerrilla marketing. And I've read that book many years ago.
Yeah, I remember that. And when you were talking about buying homes, no money down. Remember that was Carlton Sheets. Remember that guy on TV? In the infomercial.
There were so many. Yes, that's
there were
right.
a lot.
And they were trying to sell us their books and their cassette tapes,
Yeah.
And I bought that stuff. I still have them in my garage in a box. And you know what, Frank? I never opened them. But the fact that I went there, they changed my mentality.
Wow. How long were you a business broker for?
I was a business broker for about 8 years. I sold a few restaurants to some Italians, some Greeks, and all kinds of people. That's what, our people like to be in business. And,
right.
Yeah.
Wow. And what were some of the most popular businesses that you were brokering?
Most of them, I'm going to tell you, I sold a closed restaurant to this Asian lady, Chinese to be more specific. And this lady was a server. I was 25 years old. She was 45. And I mean, okay, I did have an accent, more than I do now. And but she could barely speak English, and she was buying a closed restaurant, and I mean we're in escrow, and the commission that I was going to make, it was going to be enough for me to pay my rent the full year. But I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment back then. And you know what? I thought that this lady was going to lose her money. So I call her in the office and I tell her, her American name was Annie. I go, Annie, I don't think you should buy the restaurant. Of course, I'm shooting myself on the foot, right?
Yeah, you're the business broker.
Yeah, exactly.
You're saying, don't buy it.
Exactly. And she says, why? Well, I go, you're going to have a hard time. It's difficult in the restaurant business. I just didn't want to see the lady losing her money.
Wow.
And she realized that this wasn't talking. Instead, this is what it was talking. And she turned around and she said, John, if I fall down, I pretend looking for something, I get up and walk again. That was another wake-up call for me. So which means, basically, don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah.
I mean, people are afraid of failure. That's why they don't move forward. They don't do anything. They don't want to take the risk. And guess what? That Annie lady, she still owns the restaurant since 1985. Okay? 40 years.
That's amazing. And she was you said she was 45 years old at the time?
Yes, correct.
That's incredible. One of the big lessons we try to teach young people is take more risk when you're young. You can recover from more risk, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. When people ask me, what should I do? Whatever it is that you want to do, go out there and do it. And don't be afraid. That's what I tell them. What do you got to lose? Time? Right. You're young, no big deal.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that a lot of people don't get encouraged even at a young age to risk and fail and try things out because their friends or their family, they just don't want to see them fail. And they don't want them to be risk takers because they don't see it for themselves, I guess.
What do they say? If you don't cross the street, you don't smell the roses.
That's true.
Yeah.
So did you, when you left the brokerage business, did you feel like this was a new calling for you?
You know what? I think so, yes. I left the business brokerage. And if you remember the Gulf War in 91,
Yeah, yes.
and we'll get a lot of people, but people were afraid to buy a business, and I just, maybe I was too honest, with all due respect to the rest of the brokers, and occupations have certain reputation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I guess that was not my thing. But in the restaurant business, we've done well over here, and I'm very happy with the move that I made, acquiring the Broken Yolk and expanding it, and now I'm franchising. And
oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk more about Broken Yolk, and I would love to hear how your franchise journey started. So you've got that one company on location, and what made you decide that you were going to franchise this?
Well, what happened is when I took over the Broken Yolk, it was about 3,000 square feet with 80 seating capacity. And once we built the momentum, I said earlier, we're doing very well. We had like an hour wait on the weekends. And then we acquired the property next door. And we went from 3,000 square feet to 7,000 square feet, from 80 seating capacity to 300 seating capacity. And within a year, the place was packed. We had an hour wait, And San Diego being a tourist location, and SeaWorld is like only 2 miles away from the location you can walk to SeaWorld, would get a lot of tourists, a lot of people from back east and south. And people would ask us, do you franchise? Do you franchise? At that time, I wasn't thinking about franchising. I figured, the wife was happy with the white picket fence. Is that what they say? Two and a half kids, 2.4 kids, and a dog. I don't have the dog, but I have the white picket fence and the kids. And it sounds like you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How many kids though? You have 2.5 though.
No, I have 3.
Okay, all right, we round it up.
So anyway, so the inquiries would come in, and then I had a regular customer, a local here in San Diego, and he kept asking me, and I go, no. He says, I want the name. I want to open a Broken Yolk. I go, listen, you have money? He says, yes. I go buy some real estate. Go buy something that's a sure bet.
Right.
He says, no. So anyway, so we started with him. We opened a location, and then somebody else came, a friend of mine. He came and he says, hey, you know what? And he had no experience, and we took a risk with him, and he done quite well, and he opened 2. The first guy opened 9. He still owns 9.
Really?
And then more people came, and here we are with 39 franchised and 1 corporate owned.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. Tell me how your life changed from just, owning the one Broken Yolk Cafe to being a franchisor. And did you feel the pressure or stress of trying to make these people successful?
Well, definitely there is some pressure, but it's how you deal with it. I mean, I'm a people person, and I'm there for them. The first couple of franchise owners, I call them, when they would call me 11 p.m., I would answer the phone. Midnight, I would answer the phone. Now they don't call me anymore, But I had no problem with them, Of course, there's going to be always challenges, but that's what makes it more interesting. If everything was easy, everybody would do it.
That's true. That's the beauty. That's the beauty to me of business, is that if it was so easy, everybody would do it, and there'd be even more competition.
I have an Italian friend that I met in '87. He's a successful person, and I would always, I would meet him, and and would talk about this and that, and I would say, hey, Dennis, why can't they just do it, the other way? He said, John, it's okay. We need people like them. It's easier for us.
Exactly. That's true. No, that's great. So, John, when you started franchising now, you had a couple of franchisees. Tell me about how it's like, what steps did you take to ensure consistency from location to location, specifically because in your business, it really is all about making sure I'm getting that consistent experience.
Well, I had no experience about franchising. I know how to flip an omelette. I know how to take care of the customer. But when it comes to that, I found out that I had to build some infrastructure. So I started hiring some people, talking to people. I would go to franchise conferences and talking to a lot of people. I mean, franchise shows from Chicago to San Francisco to LA to Las Vegas to Phoenix. I would always go and I tried to learn. I had a thirst for learning. And once you build infrastructure, then the infrastructure grows, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, I have in the office about 14 people that they support the franchisees. And we have systems in place and we're there to give them whatever they need.
Oh, that's fantastic. John, who is your ideal franchise owner? What do you think it needs for them to be really successful?
Somebody who goes like this, somebody who feels the pulse, with all due respect to the other concepts out there. I had this person that came here with his father, his mother, his in-laws, and his wife. And he says, we looked at a few other concepts out there. He says, why should we sign up with you?
Right.
I told him, because I'm going to hold your hand until you learn how to walk. And that was the selling point.
Smart.
And that's what it's all about. People say, how did you come up with that? Well, when you've been around a few years, you learn a few things. That's it. You just open your mind.
John, so doing a little research on your Broken Yolk Café, I understand that you guys are the home of a Man vs. Food Challenge back in 2009. All right, why don't you tell us about it? So Adam Richman came to you. How did they find you? How did this whole thing come to be?
And just through internet, we have this challenge. It's a 12-egg omelet, and that has chili, cheese, and with hash browns and 2 big biscuits. It comes in a 12-inch pizza pan, and once it comes to your table, you have 1 hour to finish it. If you finish it, it's on the house, and we'll put your name in a plaque on the wall. And if you don't, then you pay full price. So they found out about it, and they came here with the whole filming crew and stuff, and it was great. Yeah.
And did Adam finish it or no?
Yes, he did finish it. Yes.
He did finish it. Yeah, no, Adam was a big boy. He was good at it.
Yes, correct. He was a professional leader. That's what he would do for a living back then.
Absolutely. But he couldn't keep doing it. He had to quit.
That's correct. Yeah.
Adam only did it a few more years after that, I think, and then he had to pass the baton.
Yeah.
John, what's the investment range to open a Broken Yolk?
Well, if you find a second generation restaurant, you can do it for around $700,000-800,000. If not, if it's just vanilla, shape, 4 walls, then you will probably look into closer to from 1.4 to 1.8 or 2 million.
Okay.
But remember, when our AUVs are at 2.7, that makes perfect sense.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Cool. What about what's the kind of the typical size?
We like around 4,000 square feet.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that you have this one franchise owner, I guess, who has 9 locations.
Correct.
So are you open to awarding multiple units to a franchisee, or do you like people opening just one at a time at first?
No, we like ADAs, multiple units, 3 or 4 units. But if somebody, it's somewhere in a remote area and they like to open one, we're open to that.
Okay. And what's been, since you started franchising, 16 years now it's been since you opened your first franchise, what's been your biggest surprise in franchising so far?
The biggest surprise? My goodness, I haven't thought about that. To me, we're in the people business. Just everybody wants to feel good. That's what it's all about. Surprise. I really don't have any. You know what? Yes. There's one thing I don't like, the bureaucracy in California.
Exactly, right? Oh my gosh. John, you're so, open and honest and transparent about, your experiences. I'd love for you to share with the audience, because our audiences are other people who are CEOs and founders of their own franchise company. They're trying to grow it and they're emerging founders. Can you share maybe a past challenge or maybe a mistake that you made in your past and you learned something from it that you can share with others in our audience?
Mistake. One thing that I like to share, maybe not a mistake, but something that my father would tell me. See, I grew up in a small village. We had no electricity in the village and we didn't have indoor plumbing. But he would always tell me, keep this clean. Keep this clean, because if this is clean, you can walk anywhere without any fear. So, if you're straightforward and honest and stuff, you don't need to hide. So that's what I like to tell the public out there.
Cool. It's great advice. So, John, what about growing Broken Yolk now? So how do you pick new markets that you want to get into? You're in 5 different states, right? California, Nevada, Idaho, Texas, Arizona. What are like the ideal markets, or how do you decide which ones to expand to?
We have some companies that help us with that, but we like to be in a certain demographic. We do some study through the companies, and we like them to have like a certain income, let's say 85,000 and up,
Okay.
and, so much population within a certain area. And that's how we choose the locations.
How many states are you open to? Are you open to expanding throughout the U.S., or are you trying to stay out west?
Actually, we like to go all over the U.S. As a matter of fact, 6 years ago, I had an inquiry from Japan, and I had to travel to Japan. The deal didn't happen, but it was a good experience. So cool. There you go. I was open to go to Japan. Why not?
Why not? What about what's your long-term vision for the company?
Well, I like to grow. We're at 40 now. I like to be at 50, 60. I like to just keep growing.
Awesome. And do you think this is going to continue being a legacy business for you? You've been at this a while, or do you see one day selling the whole thing to private equity or something? What's the plan?
If you ask my wife, her plan is to retire now, but I don't think I will retire.
How long have you two been together?
I've been together with my wife for 45 years. I married her when I was 19.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I have a feeling she knew what she was getting herself involved with.
But I'm not planning to retire. I love what I do. I have great people around me, and I made a lot of friends in this business. So I'm not going to be home pruning the roses. That's not my gig.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. All right, John, I got a question for you, and that is, if someone was interested in learning more about your franchise opportunity and trying to open up a Broken Yolk, where would they go? How do they get more information?
They can go to brokenyolkcafe.com, franchising, and I have a lady that has an extensive background in franchising. She was with KFC, El Pollo Loco, Johnny Rockets, and she's a local person, and she is quite knowledgeable in that field, and she would, help them out.
That's fantastic. John, I have a feeling you're going to have a lot of fans out there when they see this. I'm a fan of yours.
Thank you. Thanks.
I got one more question for you. So you're going to I want you to put your business broker hat back on here for a moment. All right.
Okay.
So if somebody came to you and they were saying, John, I want to open a franchise, not Broken Yolk, but they want to open another brand, and they were looking into buying a franchise, what piece of advice do you give people to make sure they're not making the wrong choice?
If the numbers make sense, go in with passion. Don't go in half, what? I don't want to say the word, because any business you have, you need to go 100%, not 90%.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
John, that is great advice. John, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure meeting you. It's an honor, and you've given such great advice for people who are interested in entrepreneurship, and of course by opening a Broken Yolk Cafe. So I wish you all the continued success, and thank you.
Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you too, Frank.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.